Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the MakeSense AI podcast, Artificially Intelligent, Naturally Simple. Today, Nicole and I will be shedding light on why it's paramount we keep volunteers happy, engaged, and seen.
And we'll explore how Salesforce's Agentforce can make the difference, helping NFPs manage volunteer retention, and as a result, drive greater impact to the community.
Before I forget, another reminder that Salesforce Agentforce World Tour in Sydney is just around the corner. So if you haven't registered yet, you should.
And we'll be there too. So don't miss out, guys.
Back to what you just said, Nicole, whether you're involved with a nonprofit yourself or just fascinated by how technology is being used, this deep dive should have some really interesting stuff for you.
Absolutely. And I think it's particularly relevant now, given the trends we're seeing with volunteering.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into those trends in just a bit. You know, when I was doing some research for this episode, I was really surprised to learn that nonprofits lose over a third of their volunteers every year.
It is a pretty shocking statistic.
Right? Like, if a business lost that many employees, they would be panicking. So, what are some of the main reasons why volunteers decide to leave?
Well, from the research we've seen, it's often a combination of factors, feeling undervalued, maybe feeling like their skills aren't being utilized, or just a general lack of engagement from the organization.
It makes sense. I mean, volunteering is all about giving your time to something you care about. So, if you don't feel appreciated or like you're making a real difference, it's understandable that you might lose motivation.
Volunteering needs to be a two-way street. It has to be fulfilling for the volunteer as well.
Totally. You know, on that note, we've got some data here about declining volunteer rates in Australia, which is a bit concerning. What's going on there?
Well, it's not just Australia. It's a trend we're seeing in many parts of the world. Volunteering Australia actually reports that the rate of volunteering has dropped from 36% to 28.8% between 2010 and 2019. And that's a pretty significant drop. It really highlights the need to do better when it comes to attracting and retaining volunteers.
For sure, because it's not just about filling spots, right?
No, not at all.
It's about creating a culture where volunteers feel like they're truly part of something meaningful,
Exactly. And when you create that kind of environment, the benefits are huge, not just for the organization, but for the volunteers themselves.
right? Because experienced volunteers bring so much to the table.
Definitely. Think about the skills, the knowledge, the passion they bring. Retaining those volunteers means more effective programs, stronger community impact, and ultimately a more sustainable organization.
Plus, when volunteers are happy, they're more likely to spread the word and attract even more support.
Absolutely. It's that ripple effect you were talking about earlier. Um,
Exactly. So let's talk about how we can actually create that positive volunteer experience. What are some of the common challenges that nonprofits face when it comes to managing their volunteers effectively?
Well, one of the biggest ones is simply communication. Volunteers need timely responses to their questions, clear instructions for their tasks, and regular updates on the impact of their contributions.
And I imagine it can be tough to keep up with all of that, especially when you're dealing with a large and diverse group of volunteers.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's the whole onboarding process, making sure new volunteers feel welcome, providing them with the necessary training and integrating them into the team. It can be a lot to manage.
And I imagine it gets even more complicated when you're trying to personalize the experience for each individual volunteer.
You're absolutely right. A one size fits all approach just doesn't work when it comes to volunteer engagement. You need to take into account people's different motivations, skills, availability, and that can be incredibly time consuming.
So it sounds like nonprofits are facing a real dilemma. They need to improve volunteer retention, but doing so requires more time, resources, and personalized attention than they often have available.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. But what if there was a way to bridge that gap? And that's where Agent Force comes in. There are now AI powered tools designed specifically for nonprofits to help them overcome these challenges.
Okay, so we mentioned this in the last episode. Are we referring to service agents and how tasks could be automated?
Exactly. AI support that can streamline a lot of the administrative tasks and free up staff time to focus on those crucial human connections. It essentially acts as a super efficient assistant for volunteer management. taking care of many of those tasks that would typically bog down staff members. It's not just about automation either. It's about providing valuable insights to help nonprofits make data-driven decisions about their volunteer programs.
Okay, so tell me more. How does it actually work?
Well, one of the key features is the agent that is available 24/7 to provide instant support. Imagine a volunteer has a quick question outside of office hours. Instead of waiting for a response, they can simply interact with the Agentforce chatbot and get the information they need right away.
But we're not talking about the old chatbots that give generic responses and is obviously robotic.
No, absolutely not. This agent is able to learn and adapt to the requests of the volunteers. Say if the volunteer has a profile with the nonprofit organization, it can pull up the volunteer's information and chat history and address accordingly and accurately.
No doubt volunteers would feel valued and supported even when staff aren't available.
Yep. No more waiting on emails or replies and losing the drive to volunteer. Another area that Agentforce can help is its ability to personalize the onboarding process. Based on the volunteer's profile and the information they provide, Agentforce can tailor the content and resources they receive, making them feel like a valued member of the team from day one.
So it's not just a generic welcome package, it's like a customized experience designed just for them.
Exactly. And that can make a huge difference in terms of engagement and retention. It makes them feel seen, like the organization actually cares about them as an individual.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got instant support through these service agents, personalized onboarding experiences. What else does Agent Force bring to the table?
Well, it also has an intelligent case management system. This ensures that any issues or concerns raised by volunteers are automatically routed to the right person and addressed in a timely and efficient manner.
So no more emails getting lost in the abyss or volunteers feeling like their concerns are being ignored.
Exactly. It's all about creating a seamless, responsive experience that makes volunteers feel heard and appreciated.
That's so important because if a volunteer feels like their concerns aren't being addressed, they're more likely to just walk away.
You're absolutely right. And it's not just about addressing problems, it's also about recognizing and celebrating successes. Agent Force can track volunteer contributions and provide feedback, which helps to reinforce that sense of purpose and belonging.
I love that. It's not just about efficiency, it's about using technology to foster those crucial human connections.
Couldn't agree more. And, we talked earlier about the importance of understanding why volunteers leave. Well, Agent Force can actually help with that too.
Oh, really?
It goes beyond simply automating tasks. It also uses data to help nonprofits understand their volunteers on a deeper level.
So tell me more about how Agent Force uses data to boost volunteer engagement.
Well, one of the most powerful features is its ability to track real time engagement metrics. This means nonprofits can see which volunteers are most active, which activities are most popular, and even identify potential issues before they escalate. This helps internal teams figure what volunteers enjoy doing most and hence foster stronger communities.
Wow. So it's like having a pulse on the volunteer community.
Exactly. And this data can be used to personalize the entire volunteer experience from recommending relevant training opportunities to suggesting new ways for them to get involved.
That sounds incredibly powerful and a little bit scary, to be honest.
I understand that concern, but yeah, it's important to remember that the goal here is to empower volunteers, not to manipulate them. Understanding what drives them and fuels them to lend support will help nonprofits provide better onboarding, campaigns, and events that will keep them a part of the community.
You're right. Volunteer retention is so important in the success of nonprofits and helping them carry out their mission. Honestly, Zrania, it feels like we've opened up another rabbit hole with what Agent Force can do.
Don't get me started on donor and fundraiser management.
What? There's more? Okay. I think we'll have to keep that for another episode. But let's park that idea and let our listeners digest what we've just discussed. On our next episode, Nicole will provide some specific examples of how Agent Force is used to keep volunteers engaged. I can't wait to hear more.
Yep, I'll be there. See you on the next episode.
Thanks, Nicole. And thanks for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode.